on behalf of the Board of Directors, Lugavere and I welcome you to what promises to be a spectacular evening honoring a very well-respected leader in our community, Dr. Derek Raghavan.
I'm Lubomir Stambuk. I'm the President and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Charlotte. And I'm delighted to officially announce to you all that this year's dinner is completely sold out. This speaks greatly of Dr. Derek Raghavan, what he has done and is doing for our community. With an extremely busy Charlotte community calendar and numerous other commitments that pull us all in every direction, I would like to thank you all of you for being here tonight to share with us and honor Dr. Raghavan and recognize the contributions that he and the Levine Cancer Institute make to our community. Thank you. Now it is my honor and delight to introduce to you a number of people we have here with us tonight. I would like to welcome them and thank them for their presence, so please hold your applause while I introduce them all. First and foremost, we're pleased to have with us the Honorable Patricia Perez, the Deputy Consul at the Consul General of Mexico in Raleigh. Please stand up so we can all recognize you. Thank you for being here, Patricia. We also have with us 3 honorary consuls who provide consular representation in North Carolina for their respective countries and play a very important role in linking us with their countries. The Honorable Wayne Cooper, Honorary Consul Mexico, hold your applause. The Honorary Claudio Carpano, Honorary Consul of Italy, and the Honorable Michael Teeden, British Honorary Consul. Thank you for being here tonight and for all you're doing. It is also my pleasure to have six previous World Citizen Award recipients with us tonight. And hold your applause while I read their names and recognize them. Dr. Francis Robichek, awarded in 2007. Hold your applause, big name. All of them. Sandra and Leo Levine, 2012. Margaret and Smokey Bissell, 2013. Michael Tarwater, 2014. Dr. Phil Dubois, 2016. And Pat Rogers, 2018. Thank you for being here and congratulations. You make this award dinners even better by being here, and we really appreciate you all being here with us and celebrating Dr. Raghavan. It is my pleasure to introduce to you and to welcome Janet Labar, the new CEO of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, to our city. Janet, thank you for being here today. We wish you great success here, Janet. And I was at the Rotary lunch yesterday, Uptown Rotary, and I heard you share your vision and thoughts about the future of Charlotte. And I'm very grateful that you're here with us tonight. I enjoyed your presentation very much. Thank you. Janet. The board members of the World Affairs Council of Charlotte help govern, direct, and promote the Council's good works and programs. Many of our corporate sponsors here tonight have a representative serving on the board, and I want to thank all of them for their continued support. I would now like to ask the World Affairs Council board members present here tonight to please stand and be recognized for all that you do for our organization. Thank you, board members of the World Affairs Council. Please stand. Wow. 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 We have a great board. There's a 4-year waiting period for those of you that are interested. So, having said that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention and thank you to all the co-chairs who are here for tonight's award dinner. They're composed of numerous prominent Charlotte business and community leaders, as well as colleagues and close personal friends of Dr. Raghavan. Our co-chairs are listed in the program and include, and again, please hold your applause, Michelle and Michael Bailey, Stephanie and Matthew Bauer, Mary and Charles Bowman, Vicky Sutton and Chuck Bing, Margaret and Smokey Bissell, Jan and Ed Brown, Amanda and Stuart Burry, Monica and Armando Chardier, Linda and Dan Cottingham the Sr., Morgan and Brian Cronwell, Todd Davis, Andy and Mac Everett, Peggy and Jim Hines, Kimberly Cacheris Parker and Brian Parker, Lisa and Phil Dubois, Sandra and Leon Levine, Ned Lipford, Carol Lovin, Carol Quillen and George McLendon, Patricia, Pat Rogers, Rudy Rudisil, Denise and Michael Salvino, Lori and Eric Sklut, Doug Singleton, Ann and Michael Tarwater, Gene Woods, and James Young. Thank you for being co-chairs of tonight's gala. Thank you so much. When you see representatives of these companies, our sponsors, please do express your appreciation to them for supporting tonight's gala. I would like to note a special thank to Fabi Pressler of Spark Publications and her production staff for the creative vision and publication support. What an amazing job they did on the printed program for this evening's event. Thank you, Fabi. Thank you, Spark Publications. Thank you. I would also want to thank, and I would ask them that they stand and remain standing to be recognized, the dinner committee members. They worked untold hours over the past 6 months to make this event the success it is. Thank you for being here tonight, and we will now start with the formal part of the evening. The dinner committee members, please, I didn't call your names, please stand up so we can give you a big round of applause. Dinner committee members.
This year, we are sending 10 deserving teachers overseas for educational experience, and you're going to meet those 10 in just a few minutes. And finally, at the community level, we sponsor an event that brings foreign dignitaries, ambassadors, national and world leaders, policymakers, prominent authors, business CCOs. And I just made a note sitting there a while ago. In the last 7 months, we have had John Brennan, former head of the CIA. In fact, when he left here, he made national news when they stripped him of his security clearance right after Charlotte. But we've had Ambassador of Germany just in the last 7 months, the Ambassador of Finland, Ambassador of Jamaica, Belgium, the EU. We have CEOs with BMW, the CEO of BMW, Porsche, Wells Fargo was just recently. So as I say, and every time I close an event, one of our events, if you're not a member of the World Affairs Council, you should be.
As Wayne mentioned, one of our teacher-level initiatives is the Council Scholar Program, wherein we select outstanding area educators, teachers, who have demonstrated a commitment to international education and to whom we provide scholarships to attend international conferences, foreign educational experiences, or similar opportunities abroad that will enrich their perspectives and enhance their classroom experiences. It is my pleasure at this point to express a special thank you to Margaret, Greg Bissell, and Smokey Bissell for their incredible support in the establishment of the new Margaret Greg Bissell Teacher-Centered International Education Endowment, which will allow, thank you, thank you, Margaret, thank you, Smokey, which will allow this important World Affairs Council Scholars Program to continue to positively impact our community for at least the next 20 years. This is major. Thank you so very, very much. On behalf of teachers and students in this region, thank you. This year, World Affairs Council has selected 10 local educators from the greater Charlotte area as council scholars, and I'm pleased to announce the 2019 winners this evening. I would like to call each of our new council scholar teachers up to the podium to introduce them to you and to present them with their fellowship certificate. Please start coming up. Our first council scholar student is Ethel Lynn McCall Visiki, an English as a new language teacher at Albemarle Road Elementary School, who will be traveling to Heredia, Costa Rica, where she will immerse herself in the intercultural Costa Rica program to facilitate better student-teacher family relationships in her classroom. Congratulations, Ethelyn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Barger, an 8th grade math teacher from South Charlotte Middle School, will participate in a conference hosted by the European Council for High Ability in Dubrovnik, Croatia. Congratulations. Now, I know something about Dubrovnik, Croatia, but about it some other time, but it's a beautiful place and a great place for International Teachers Conference. At this conference, Megan will learn more about creativity, research, and innovation in gifted education. Anthony Wainina, a 9th grade math teacher from the Carolina International School, plans to spend 2 weeks in Cusco, Peru, with the International Volunteer HQ program. Through this experience in Peru, Anthony plans to continue the North Carolina-Moldova Service Learning Project, as well as initiate the development of globalization teams across his curriculum. Irini Krepsiou, a Greek language teacher from the Socrates Academy, will be traveling to Montevideo, Uruguay. Congratulations. Montevideo, Uruguay, for 2 weeks to learn more about Latin American student roots and unique identities. Irini intends to greatly improve her Spanish language abilities and hopes to create a more inclusive classroom where students from diverse backgrounds can communicate with each other peacefully and comfortably. Shauna Turner-Meehan, an 8th grade international baccalaureate coordinator from Concord Middle School, and Michael Ellis, environmental science teacher from Hunter Huss High School, will both travel with a global education benchmark group to participate in a border and immigration study in El Paso, Texas. Congratulations. Very important topic these days. The summer symposium is designed to help educators deepen their own personal understanding of the U.S. immigration practices and border relationships. Rosalind Humphrey, a first-grade teacher with Charlotte Latin School, focusing on math and science, will travel to Northern Ireland, where she will implement the St. Michael's Primary Partnership and create a cross-cultural literacy project. Upon her return, Rosin will establish a 2-year plan with the faculty at St. Michael's, where students from Charlotte can engage with these students via pen-pal relationship and videos. Laura Schmidt, a school counselor for grades 6 to 8 at Alexander Graham Middle School, will attend the Association for Contextual Behavioral Science World Conference in Dublin, Ireland, where she will learn about contemporary research and engage with ideas and strategies to embrace many cultures and nationalities. Daniel Vicario, an advanced placement psychology teacher at Zubulian B. Vance High School, will attend the Columbia Immersion Spanish School, where he aims to improve his language skills and develop social studies lessons that reflect his experience abroad by connecting history standards to issues of peace, urban development, and environmental science. Congratulations. And finally, our last council scholar, who is not here, or is here? No, she's not here, is Rosalind Coyne, a 9th grade world history teacher from Myers Park High School, who will be visiting Scandinavia, sponsored by Global Education Allies in Finland. During her experience, she will learn more about the differences in education around the globe and develop ties to educators abroad that are interested in exchanging ideas and forming classroom partnerships. Please join me once again in congratulating this year's outstanding teachers. Give them a big round of applause. Congratulations. We now move to the presentation of the World Affairs Council Howard Josephson Award. Each year, we select a deserving recipient who has made significant contributions to our organization and embodies our mission of promoting global thinking and international education. We have the privilege of recognizing Joel Gallegos, a longtime member of the Council's Board of Directors and the Assistant Provost for International Programs at UNC Charlotte, as this year's recipient. Bravo, Joel. We are very honored to have Dr. Phil Dubois, the Chancellor of UNC Charlotte, to introduce this year's Harold Josephson Award winner. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Phil Dubois. Phil.
I was honored in 2016 when the World Affairs Council honored me with your World Citizen Award. In making my remarks that evening, I told the audience that my very first trip outside the United States was a couple of years after Lisa and I were married, as we embarked on a late honeymoon. I was in my early 30s by then, without enough international experience to know that the Club Med at Playa Blanca was not a representative slice of Mexican culture. Later, Lisa and I took a cruise to Alaska. And it's not a foreign country, to be sure, but we could see Russia. Wait for it. It was not until after I began my tenure as UNC Charlotte's provost in 1991 and met the legendary Harold Josephson that my worldview exploded. By then, he had led the founding of the World Affairs Council of Charlotte and housed it within the Office of International Programs that he led. And as my Associate Vice Chancellor for International Programs starting in 1992, Harold led me around the world, working to strengthen our faculty and student exchange partnerships from Europe to the Far East. Harold had many wonderful qualities and abilities, but keenest among them was the ability to hire good people, provide the resources they needed, and then get out of the way. And it was in July of 1997, just under a year before his death, that Harold hired a promising young professional, Joel Gallegos, as his Director of Study Abroad, a position that Joel held for 8 years before becoming the Assistant Provost for International Programs in 2005. As Assistant Provost, Joel leads one of the nation's most successful one-stop shops for all things international at our university. Harold and Joel had much in common. Both had an expansive view of international education and its value to faculty and staff. Both spoke 2 languages. Joel speaks French and Spanish. Harold spoke English and Brooklyn. Both enjoyed wide national recognition and leadership within the major international organizations, including Joel's service as the 2014 chair of the annual conference of NAFSA, the Association of International Educators, the preeminent international education organization on the planet. And like Harold, Joel has been extremely entrepreneurial, steadily expanding our exchange relationships. This past year, sending over 800 students abroad to 50 partner institutions, nearly a 115% increase in students serving abroad, and a tripling of our exchange sites around the world just over the past decade. I have been pleased to travel the world with Joel, to ink these deals with my counterparts, and to share in some of the world's finest local vintages. Throughout his tenure as Assistant Provost, Joel has been a strong and enthusiastic supporter of the World Affairs Council and values, as I do, that the Council is housed at UNC Charlotte. I couldn't be more pleased to introduce Joel Gallegos as the recipient of the 2019 Harold B. Josephson, P. Josephson Award. Joel.
This recognition is particularly meaningful to me because I, like some of you in this room, actually knew Harold Josephson personally. As Chancellor Dubois just shared, I knew him because he hired me to come to UNC Charlotte to work alongside of him nearly 20 years ago. I admired him because he was a visionary. He understood nearly 40 years ago that the city of Charlotte would become increasingly a more culturally and ethnically diverse community. He predicted that it would become an increasingly more attractive place to foreign-owned companies and investment. He anticipated that, as a community, we would develop and refine our cultural appetites for the arts and other avenues for extremely diverse creative expression that comparable cities had. And Harold was also convinced that in order to support the needs of a dynamic and emerging metropolitan area that embodied a global city, that universities like UNC Charlotte and organizations like the World Affairs Council of Charlotte could foster global learning and stimulate discourse on topics that educate all of us on world events and policies that would impact us right here in Mecklenburg County. And that's essentially the reason for which he founded the World Affairs Council within the Office of International Programs at UNC Charlotte in the first place. He knew that strengthening and developing a broader and deeper appreciation and understanding of our interconnected world would contribute to the development of new knowledge, identify solutions to real-world problems, and most importantly, it would promote global literacy that fosters citizen-to-citizen diplomacy. Harold recognized that the value of global learning can and should effectively and positively impact foreign affairs, geopolitics, and the overall development of a more educated and enlightened world citizenry. It's a truly privilege for me to work in the international higher education space, and I hope that Harold would not only be satisfied, but he would be thrilled to see the evolution of the council and also to see how UNC Charlotte has become the international university that it has to support our wonderful, amazing community. Thank you very, very much.
And for the reason we are here tonight is the World Citizens presentation by Dr. Derek Raghavan. The purpose of this award and prior recipients, this is an award that is given annually by the World Affairs Council since 1990. The previous award winners are listed in your program, and I think you'll agree they represent the outstanding, internationally known individuals and organizations of whom our community is very proud. Prominent Americans such as Reverend Billy Graham, Dean Rusk, Secretary Elizabeth Dole. Retail icons of the Belk family, John, Irwin, Tim, and the most recent recipients, Erskine and Crandall Bowles, Dr. Francis Robichek, Sandra and Leon Levine, Margaret and Smokey Bissell, Michael Tarwater, Dr. Phil DuBois, Dr. Tony Zeist, and last year's recipient, Pat Rogers. Just to name a few, you have to admit it's a distinguished and select group, to say the least. The purpose of this award, as you know, is to honor prominent citizens or organizations with Carolina ties who have distinguished themselves by accomplishments and achievements that have had local, regional, and international significance. And I think you'll have to agree that Dr. Raghavan is an internationally renowned cancer researcher and current president of Levine Cancer Institute, is truly deserving of this award and our collective appreciations for all that he has done in pioneering innovative approaches to cancer care and significantly improving our human conditions with the progress that he and his colleagues make every day in combating this disease. Now, to begin our evening recognition of Dr. Raghavan, we thought it'd be especially appropriate to have another brief musical presentation by the Trion Ensemble of the Charlotte Symphony, as it is truly one of Dr. Raghavan's dearest pleasures. As he is, as maybe you may not know, a longtime supporter of the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra, currently serves as chairman of the board. So without further ado, sit back and enjoy the Trion Ensemble as they perform Schubert String Quartet in A minor, Opus 29. As is our custom in our annual World Citizens Award dinner, we have for you a brief video presentation to help show the accomplishments, the contributions, and the differences that Dr. Raghavan and the Levine Cancer Institute has made in pioneering innovative approaches to cancer care and materially affecting so many of our own families and friends who have benefited from having this world-class medical facility here in Charlotte. So let's pause for a moment and take time to truly appreciate exactly what Dr. Raghavan and the Levine Cancer Institute means to us all.
I like to call Derek a nomad because his father was a diplomat. So he has lived all over the world. He decided to attend Sydney University Medical School. That's where he got his training. In Australia, you don't have an MD, you have an MBBS. So it's very rare to get an MD. He knocked out a thesis in 3 weeks. He actually got his MD.
I think he just has a drive to use his smarts for good, whether that's helping to either cure or alleviate people's symptoms, or whether that's building up just the city, community, whatever it might be.
I would say that he's the most important man to move to our city in the last 25 years, and maybe the last 50. He's a remarkable man, and he's built a remarkable institution in a very short period of time.
A month or so before LCI 1 opened, I remember him telling that he was going to teach and train all the people that work in LCI. He wanted all of them to learn, number one, to be kind and thoughtful of the patients. And he has really done that, and his entire staff has done it, and it's been a great thing.
When he speaks, he does not have a note in front of him. I know that that is not easy, but I know the reason he can do that is because of his passion and his desire to have this be a very successful cancer center.
He definitely has been able to bring to us different perspectives and different ways of looking at the same problem, whether it be in different parts of the country as well as internationally.
I've never worked for a boss who had such a far-reaching vision and who saw potential where there seemed to be no potential.
He has an ability to bring out the very best in people.
He is just constantly driven, and the amount of ideas that he has makes my hair even bigger than it already is. He's one of my go-tos when I have a crazy idea as well, because that's one of the things I like best about him is he really gets behind your idea, helps you to sort of formulate and figure out where you can take it.
What Dr. Raghavan brought to all of us as physicians specifically is just a tremendous amount of leadership. We believed in him, we believed in the concept, and so we were inspired to really follow his path.
Derek, in addition to having the strategic vision, has the clarity of focus in day-to-day operations that keep the whole enterprise moving forward.
Part of what he's done through, one, his personal reputation, and two, by encouraging academic output from people who work at LCI, has really dramatically raised their profile to really become a national and then subsequently international name.
On one occasion, I probably was in a bad mood to begin with, and we had quite a passionate discussion. I'll leave it at that. And my memory is that I was louder than him, and quite loud, and I'll just say passionate in my point of view. We ended on an okay note, but afterwards, I thought I better not run into him like within 24 hours or I'm going to be in some deep trouble. I ran into him. He put his arm around me and said, "That was a great discussion we had yesterday." And I've sort of learned from that you can be very direct with him.
His ability to think outside the box is exceptional, as evidenced by the fact that LCI has the first mobile lung cancer screening unit.
The lung bus, as we call it, has really been an international type of project that nowhere else in the country exists. Now, I really shouldn't share this information, but this is actually a copy of the actual project grant that went in, and you can see what we settled on here. Yes, it's the Raghavan.
Seeing him in Charlotte over the last few years, I really do feel like he finally feels that he is part of the right community for him. He gets a lot from the Charlotte community and in return has given a lot as well. It ranges from going to Panthers games, the symphony, and now working at the VA, which is an amazing way to give back to the community.
He came on the board of the symphony, and within a couple of years he was chair of the board. And that doesn't happen that easy. He listens as a leader, not only with passion for whatever he's doing, but with compassion.
He was the first dancer in Dancing with the Stars, and I was a judge. And he did really well, but I gave him a 7 because it was the very first person I was judging. I thought, well, I'm gonna have to have a spread here. And so I felt really bad about it and still feel bad about giving him a 7 to this day. He probably deserved a 9.
Obviously, a lot of the work that he's done at the hospital, building such amazing facilities for so many patients, it's just an example of some of the ways that he's given back to the community.
He's always a stable voice of reason and is consistently reliable. Anyone with so many degrees listed after their name would be a little stuffy, but not Derek. While he is serious and utmost professional, he has a very silly and soft side.
He's got such a funny, dry sense of humor. It takes people a minute to get it sometimes. He's got a little bit of a mischievous streak as well, which is kind of awesome.
He constantly likes to learn. We all know how smart he is, but I'm sure he feels that this award is deserving on everybody at LCI. So he would share this award with everybody.
Derek coming to Charlotte has enhanced Charlotte greatly, has enhanced the medical community greatly, and also the cultural community. So we've been very fortunate to get a man who fits all of those roles and wears all of those hats.
I'd have taken the words right out of my mouth.
To introduce our honoree and to further give you a more personal view of Dr. Raghavan and the Levine Cancer Institute, we are privileged to have with us tonight the President and CEO of Atrium Health, Mr. Gene Wood.
I'm not quite sure how you follow a video like that when the words from Hugh McCall and the Levines and family and friends and wonderful colleagues, because it just about says it all. So as I was thinking about tonight, though, the fun part for me was learning new things like what you heard there. I thought it was the lung bus, and then I come to find out it's the Raghavan. And so I was thinking, well, what else don't I know about Derek? And what would people want to know about him here? And so I asked my team, and they said, there's a treasure trove of video that didn't make the cut here. And I said, well, what are we going to do with that video, all that video? I said, let me take a look at it, and let me just kind of have a snippet and see what it's about. And so one teammate said, we could probably do a little mini-series of Dr. Raghavan and follow him around. And I said, oh, that's a pretty good idea. I said, another one said, you know what? I think what we should do is there's enough blooper type videos there that we should really submit it, put it together, and do a video audition for America's Got Talent. And that he could probably replace Simon Cowell. And so as we were thinking about that, actually, I was like, that's a great idea, because recently we had our own version of America's Got Talent. It was Atrium Got Talent. We had this wonderful talent event from people all over the system, and Dr. Raghavan was actually one of the judges, did a brilliant job. And if you can look at this picture, there's a little bit of a resemblance here. So we did pitch the idea to ABC. They said there was already enough controversy with Simon Cowell. They didn't need any more controversy, so they rejected the idea, Dr. Raghavan. But I hope that you did bring your sunglasses tonight, because this is a bright room of support here for you. And I know you're sitting there, given what we've come to know about each other, that you hate it when people are talking and praising you. You're saying it's about the team, and I know you'd have more fun if this was more of a roast than honoring you for all the work that you've done. But I think that this group wants to see the blooper reel. Do you guys want to see it? Yeah. Want to see the blooper reel? Okay, all right. Let's check this out.
I don't know what I can say that won't get me in trouble.
One side of Derek that not everyone may see is that he can be very direct. And, I find it frankly refreshing. And so when he first came, it was, to be honest, shocking when he would say exactly what he thought.
If you're doing a good job, you will know. If you're not doing a good job, you definitely will know. Feedback is such a big gift, and he gives it to you whether you want it or not.
Goodness gracious. I told him I would tell the truth. I'll try to behave. I would say that the vice president whose office is next to his usually breaks out into a sweat and panics when we get together for meetings because he always knows that it's going to cost him money.
Well, it's always been interesting and fun to work with Dr. Raghavan because he grew up in Australia. I grew up in South Carolina, so we had different approaches on how to work together. He's taught me how to be a little more tough, and I've taught him how to be a little more Southern.
If you've seen Dr. Raghavan's titles and his abbreviations of all the degrees he has afterwards, it's the longest list I've ever seen in anyone. But if you notice something very interesting, there is no middle initial.
You might want to cut this out, but he has like a way of talking his way out of speeding tickets, and it's a really big point of pride, I think, for him.
Newly in our marriage, I wanted to make him a special dinner. So I had texted him a bottle of wine that I was going to use for a pot roast. And it just happened to be a Penfold Grange 1990. Didn't hear back from him, so I thought I was good to go. He didn't say anything until after the meal, and he goes, "That was probably the most expensive pot roast we've ever had."
He actually drove a taxi cab in London. And first of all, I think that's hilarious. But I think it speaks volumes to communication and transportation, right? He has great concept on what it takes to get from one location to the next.
And finally, for those of you who definitely know Dr. Raghavan, the last thing and most important thing he does, he likes to go kick some. Can I say on this tape? Is that okay? Maybe you should cut that. Well, I'm a doctor, so anatomically it's correct. I can say should be fine.
Derek, congratulations. You're well deserving of this award. We're very proud of you.
So congratulations, Derek, on this award.
Since 1990, the World Affairs Council of Charlotte annually presents the World Citizens Award to prominent individuals, as we've heard, who've enhanced our community's standing in the world while also making considerable contributions to our city, our region, and our international community. So Derek, you join a proud list that was referenced earlier, but I'd like to call out one particular person on that list, and that is Dr. Francis Robacek, who's here with us this evening. And I'm calling out Dr. Robacek because I guess it was a couple of months ago, Derek was giving a talk at a dinner, and Dr. Robacek was in the audience. And Derek proceeds to tell the group that, first of all, what a visionary Dr. Robacek has been, and went on to explain some of the things that he's done. And he said, no one could ever fill his shoes. No matter what anybody did in this community, really who we are as Atrium, it really was because of Dr. Robacek and all his efforts. But what I'm here to say, there's only one Dr. Robacek. He was the visionary of his time, and you are the Dr. Robacek of this time. And I think this quote says it all for me about Dr. Raghavan. Do not follow where paths may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. When Derek left the Cleveland Clinic, he literally could have gone to any system in this country. And we are very blessed that he chose our city, our organization, to blaze a new trail that many people will follow for generations to come. And he blazed that trail in very short order. It's been referenced how he came to town and with the support of the Levines and so many from this community started our Cancer Institute. He pioneered an internationally known new approach to care. Because of his leadership, we have life-saving work at the Levine Cancer Institute in a multi-state network, a network that spans 25 different centers today. And in fact, so many people are choosing Levine Cancer Institute that we recently had to open up a second facility. And there's 180,000 visits that we have every single day. So every work week, if you will, we have 700 patients in our care for cancer and for treatment and for compassion. And so for that, Dr. Raghavan, his leadership has just been incredible. And it extends into the community, not just the symphony, which we've heard his wonderful support for, but from the patient navigator system academy that he started. When you hear the word cancer, you need somebody to help you navigate the journey and your disease, and he started this that is a national model now. He's also a national leader in reducing disparities of care. Last year we got a $14 million grant, federal grant, for sickle cell treatment for the region. And also, as you see here, the lung bus, or the Raghavan bus, now that we kind of know it. But here's the thing about this bus. What he appreciated and understood, that part of the challenge in cancer screening is really as simple as transportation. So this is a mobile CT scan that goes to our neighborhoods around the city, but also goes to the ruralmost parts of our state. And we can tell you countless of stories of people who never really even knew what a lung screen was, and because we were there for them, we discovered cancer early so that they and their family could see and have the gift of time. But I think it's important also to just listen to how Derek thinks about patients when they hear the word cancer. And this is something in his own words, if you will. He says, the ability to set a new patient or family at ease within the first few minutes of a clinical encounter makes a huge difference in moving the clinical situation along, in reducing fear and anxiety, in facilitating clear and accurate communication, and improving the whole experience both for the patient, the family, and the physician. So now you have a glimpse of why we're here to honor this amazing individual. And so as I was thinking about bringing him up, I was going to quote a few excerpts from the 300 publications that he's had, or from one of the 12 books that he's authored. But instead, I thought the most appropriate way to bring him on is to hear from a patient themselves and their family. And this is a recent letter that actually our board chair, Ed Brown, received. So if you would let me walk through this and try not to get emotional. Our son was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer when he was 46. The cancer metastasized quickly and chemotherapy did not work, nor the many surgeries and scans he endured the last 3 years. In January, he received very, very bad news. The advice from the cancer center that had performed his prior surgery suggested that the next step would be clinical trials and gave him a time frame of only 6 months to a year to live. So we reached out to Derek Raghavan directly to see if he could assist us with a second opinion. And Derek quickly responded with the names of a liver surgeon and oncologist on his staff and said he would arrange for a meeting. So soon after, our son came to Charlotte to meet with the surgeon and the oncologist that Derek recommended. And frankly, we went into the meeting without hope. However, when we met the suggested surgeon, he concluded that he had the equipment, the surgical expertise, and the excellent team. And he said, we need to remove the tumor. We were in shock. All of our recent energy had been focused on end-of-life documents and solidifying future plans for his wife and his 2 young children. From there, the very next day, we met with the medical oncologist on the Levine team. He was also compassionate, cautiously encouraging, and incisively logical as we discussed the cutting-edge options that would be available to our son after surgery. 2 weeks later, we were back in the team's care for surgery and what would be better described as very aggressive surgery. The effort of the team, of the nurses, of the anesthesiologists, of the surgeons was brilliant. And our life has been changed forever, and we have been blessed with the gift of time with our son. We get countless of letters like this weekly, and ultimately that's what this is about. And so we are blessed in this community to have Derek, the team that he's assembled, to have the support of the Levines, to have the support of so many in this room, so that our neighbors, our colleagues, our friends, our loved ones don't have to leave this community to receive the best care that they could get anywhere in this country. So thus, it's my distinct honor and privilege, on behalf of Atrium Health, on behalf of this cherished Queen City, on behalf of all of our patients, on behalf of the World Affairs Council of Charlotte, to honor you, Derek Raghavan, with the 2019 World Citizen of the Year Award.
Well, after all that, you must be desperate to get home, so I'll try to be relatively brief. You know, LJ said to me, "This is your night. Take as long as you like, 20 minutes, half an hour." And Wayne said, "But remember, I carry a gun." So, you know, I think people have mentioned the fact that I'm not terribly comfortable in this sort of setting. And I firmly believe that this award is about the Levine Cancer Institute and represents a team that's spectacular. You know, I think you've seen a nice representation of the sort of work we do. And I think my skill is a bit different from Francis Robicek's. Francis came here with no resources, barely speaking English, amazing training in surgery, and did it by himself. And in fact, the one thing that Jean didn't mention was that when I came to town, somebody said to me, "If you do half as well as Francis, you'll be a success." And Pete Clark, who we recruited as chair of urology, and I were running a course in Portugal last week. And a fellow called Gabriel Haas, who used to be the head of urology at Syracuse, was one of the invited speakers. And he said, "Charlotte, do you happen to know Francis Robicek?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do. I think I hold him as a friend. He's given me 2 pieces of artwork in the mistaken thinking that I was Iranian, and then refused to take them back." And I said, he's a fabulous guy, and still as smart as he ever was. And he said, "Well, tell him I send my best regards. My father went to medical school with him, and tell him he's a legend in the Hungarian medical community." And so it's my first opportunity to fully share that message with you, Francis. You know, I think my skill set is I'm a really good recruiter. I think I've recruited some of the best people who've been in Charlotte for a long period of time serving this community. People like Jean Chai and Wendy Brick, Gary Frenette, who have served this community well, and I'm sure many of you have heard of them, and we integrated them into the leadership of the Levine. Surgeons like Richard White, who now has a chair in his honor called the Richard White Surgical Chair, who also got the St. George Medal from the American Cancer Society. They were always rock stars practicing oncology here. And so we took the best and the brightest and then brought in more than 100 people from around the country from the best centers. The initial part of this vision was Mike Tarwaters and Jim Hines, among others, Paul France and others, actually created a vision that attracted me. And what attracted me was the thought and the philosophy of the old Charlotte Memorial Hospital, antedating even Carolina's healthcare. And so prior to Michael, the late Harry Nurkin actually launched this boat. And so it was Michael, preceded by Harry, and followed by Jean. I've had to break in 2 CEOs. I think I've done well with Michael. I still have a little work to do with Jean, based on those videos. But the thing that works for us is his sense of humor, unfortunately, is rather representative of mine. I took a very bold step, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning this with our 1,000 closest friends, but you might remember there was a major announcement about the new name for Atrium Health. And I had to give a speech to our leadership group. It was about 1,000 people. Ed Brown, our current chair of the board, was there. And I gave a speech which finished saying something or other about the healthcare system. And I said, and so you could think of Carolina's healthcare system as being sort of an atrium into fabulous healthcare, and sat down. And my immediate boss was quite displeased, and Jean sent me a text that said, "You bloody Australians, your sense of humor will get you into trouble." And so we get on very well. I've had a fabulous relationship with Michael Tarwater, and we've become close personal friends. I have an emerging fabulous relationship with Jean, and I feel comfortable and confident. And what I like about Jean's style, and a nice transition from Jim Hines to Ed Brown, is they have vision and ambition to create the best healthcare system in the Southeast, and the reason for doing it is to provide amazing care for patients close to home, irrespective of their ability to pay. And that, I think, is a defining feature of Atrium Healthcare. We look after everybody with one class of the best service we can provide. You know, I think you've seen examples of the things we're doing. We have a team of rock stars. We honestly have international figures. You saw Stuart Burry talking. Stuart gave a plenary session on the management of brain tumors at one of the international radiation societies. Ed Kim was on that. Ed is an international figure and is constantly giving plenary sessions at national cancer meetings. Katie Milam, one of the younger people who spoke, has just become the chair of the Cancer Research Committee of the American Society of Clinical Oncology. And Katie was actually here before our team came to town, so we've opened opportunities for them. None of this could have happened without the extraordinary commitment and generosity of Leon and Sandra Levine, of Laurie and Eric Sklut, of Amy and Alfred and Howard and Julie. The Levines are the most amazingly committed family, and they're really part of our family, both professionally. They come to Levine. Leon will sneak in and sneak out, take a look at what's going on, and they've incorporated us into their family. So we've become close social, personal friends, and we very much appreciate it. When I say we, I should mention that, you know, you can't do the sort of work I do and be a particularly good husband and father. And so Judy, my wife, and my kids have made big sacrifices to allow me to do the work that's so important. And so I just want to thank them and my stepdaughter Meg, who gave me my other name, which is D-Rock. And I've been in the unhappy financial situation, but very happy personal situation of having both daughters marry within a 12-month period. And my two sons-in-law are gentlemen of whom I'm incredibly proud. Matt and Andrew, respectively, have served us in the military and in social and religious support in Iraq, Afghanistan, and in Latin America. And they're men anybody would want their daughters to be married to. And my stepdaughter, Megan, is married to a financial guy in New York City who's just a superstar and an amazing father. So I'm blessed to have a family that has supported me in what I've done, and many of my close friends are here in the audience. We've gotten to know each other. Somebody asked me recently, how committed was I to Charlotte? And I said, well, the honest answer is Judy and I bought our funeral plots here, so I think that's probably significant commitment. The final thing I want to say before I sit down, or two things I want to say. One is to thank all the recipients of this award. You know, Patricia Rogers, who's such an extraordinary business leader in the community and such a gracious person, got me into the symphony board, and she and I and a couple of other people changed the style of the board and have created a scenario where the symphony has now been in the black for 2 years and is in very strong financial shape. I pay great tribute to Mary Deisler, our CEO, who has really taken some hits in making this a financially robust organization. And what I would say to you, as you are the captains of industry and society, the best way you can support the symphony is to take an annual subscription. That's the lifeblood of symphonic music. I will mention that I have very good seats for the Queen concert in June, and I draw to your attention that the music of Queen with guest artists will be done. So take a look at the papers and come to that event. It's going to be spectacular. One of the most challenging things I've had to do, other than speaking to you tonight, was to do Dancing with the Stars. And I would just make the comment that making a fool of yourself in front of 1,000 people is hard. My current boss has done it, my former boss has done it. Not that they made fools of themselves, they did actually very well. One of them played the guitar with incredible skill, to the point that people thought he was playing, miming to canned music. But, you know, there are people in this audience tonight who've danced with the stars, and I would just mention in passing, we do also have, in addition to a world-class symphony, a world-class ballet. And the lifeblood of a society as sophisticated as ours is to have a wonderful sports team, set of sports teams, and arts and music and culture and restaurants. And that's where Charlotte is going. As I close, the final thing that I would like to get on your agenda, somebody mentioned in the video, I see patients as a volunteer at the VA Medical Center here in Charlotte. Like all VA medical centers, it's dreadfully under-resourced. There is an incredibly committed staff that work their butts off. Dr. Kim, I use the word butt, not what you put on the video, and are committed to our vets. We owe the vets an immense debt. They've served us, they've died for us, and what bothers me is some of them are incredibly crippled from their service in Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam, elsewhere. We need to remember these guys, and we need to start to think creatively about what we can do as a community to support the VA Medical Center that sits over by the Billy Graham freeway. So I like missions, and while the VA doesn't know it, they're the object of the next piece of focus for me, and I hope that some of you will get involved in that. I appreciate this award. It really and truly is an award to the Levine Cancer Institute and its extraordinary staff of physicians, scientists, nurses, administrators. We believe in what we do, and we provide the best care we can as close to home as we can. That's why we have 25 branches today. And with the boss's ambition for the Southeast, I anticipate in the next 3 years before I retire, we'll probably have 50 branches. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for attending this evening and thanking us for helping us honor Dr. Raghavan and the Levine Cancer Institute. Have a safe trip home. Thank you.